I am here to tell you my story as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. It was the fall of 2004. I was 17 years old and in my senior year of high school. I had been struggling with chronic back pain. My doctor referred me to a specialist who was supposed to be the best of the best. His name was Larry Nassar, and I was told to be lucky to be seeing him. After all, he was a doctor of the USA Gymnastics team. My parents were unable to attend the appointment, so I went alone. At this appointment, Larry asked me to undress so he could massage my back. He gave me a pair of shorts and had me lay on my stomach. He started pushing really hard on my back and then placed his ungloved fingers on my vagina. He then placed the other hand on my breast and began massaging. I remember being in shock. He asked if it hurt. It did, but I was too scared to say anything, afraid of what he might do. I responded no. After the treatment was complete, he had me get dressed in front of him and went on to schedule weekly visits. I walked out of the office in a daze. Later that day, I told my mom what had happened. She took me into the police station to file a complaint. At the station, there were 2 male officers who took my statement. While they were both very nice, I remember feeling embarrassed telling them the intimate details of the abuse I had just endured. They took me to the hospital where I had a sexual assault kit done. The procedure was unlike anything I had experienced before. It was invasive and uncomfortable. I remember saying to the nurse I was afraid everyone would think I was lying. She assured me that this would not be the case. I don't remember anyone asking me how I was feeling or if I needed counseling services. I felt so alone. It was a couple of weeks before we received a phone call from the police. We were asked to come in so that Larry could explain this procedure and how this was just a misunderstanding. I did not attend the meeting because I was afraid to face the man who had just abused me. Larry Nassar explained to my parents that he is used to working with gymnasts, and because I was not a gymnast, I was not as comfortable with my body and therefore misunderstood the procedure he was doing. We were informed that the case would be closed and no charges would be filed. I remember my parents coming home and informing me of the officer's findings. I still questioned what had happened. I went online and tried to research this type of treatment, but came up with nothing. I decided to let this go because there was a lot going on with my family and I did not want to be a distraction. My dad had been diagnosed with stomach cancer and was told he only had a few months to live. I felt like it would be selfish of me to ask my parents to pursue this in light of my dad's illness. My dad ended up passing away the following spring, a few weeks before I graduated high school. I tried to go on with my life, attended college, and pursued my career as a physician assistant. As I continued my education, I questioned what happened to me more and more. I realized how Larry Nassar had gone against so many standard protocols for medical professionals. I tried to revisit pressing charges, but discovered that the statute of limitations had run out. I tried to convince myself that this was an isolated incident and I would just have to get over it. In September 2016, I got a message from a high school friend who had sent me the link to an Star article that discussed new allegations against Larry Nassar. I read the allegations and realized that this woman's story was exactly the same as mine. I immediately broke down. My worst fear had just become a reality. I would later learn that this was not an isolated incident, not even close. Over the course of 2 decades, Larry Nassar abused over 250 girls and young women under the guise of medical treatment. I felt an extreme sense of guilt for not stopping him years ago. I spent the next 6 months unable to function like I did before. I would go to work, put a smile on my face, and pretend like everything was fine, but I was screaming on the inside. I would go home and cry for hours on end. I felt like this pain was never going to go away. Slowly, with the help of therapy and support of my family, I was able to find myself again and the healing began. Shortly after, I found out I was pregnant. My husband and I were thrilled about this new adventure. I felt like I had finally gotten to a place that I could let go of the past. My son was born December 3rd, 2017. Unfortunately, shortly after his birth was the sentencing of Larry Nassar, and I was offered to read a victim impact statement. I was so scared to leave my newborn son, but I knew that I had to do this in order to fully heal. I made a last-minute decision to travel across the country to confront the man who abused me over 13 years ago. I was terrified to speak in front of all those people and didn't even know where to start when trying to convey the profound effect this abuse had on my life. Confronting Larry Nassar was both terrifying and empowering. It is a moment I will never forget. While I'm eternally grateful that I was able to speak my truth and confront my abuser, it brought up so many emotions that I had tried to hide away. After sentencing, I began having nightmares. I would dream that I was being abused by Larry and was screaming for help, but no one was listening. The abuse by Larry Nassar completely changed the trajectory of my life. While I have a wonderful family, a fulfilling career, I still suffer severe anxiety and nightmares related to the abuse. I think what was hardest for me was the fact that I did what I was supposed to do by reporting his abuse, but I felt like no one heard me or wanted to hear me. At a young age, I received the message that my voice didn't matter, especially when it was up against a powerful man. I have since learned that I am strong and my voice does matter. I hope all of you will hear these words today and take this into account when a victim comes in reporting sexual abuse. It is imperative that we listen to victims and take all accounts seriously, regardless of the accused. After 13 long years, myself and hundreds of other survivors received justice. I realize that most victims do not get the opportunity to seek justice. They are afraid to speak out, fearing that they won't be believed or have fear of retaliation. I hope we can promote an environment where victims feel empowered to speak out and that authority figures have the tools to respond appropriately and give victims the support they need. Today, myself and over 200 of my sister survivors stand together to bring awareness to childhood sexual abuse and promote a culture that no longer enables predators, but empowers survivors.